Hey everyone, welcome back. If you don't know me, my name is Miranda. I'm a sommelier, whiskey expert, been general manager of working in mostly fine dining and Michelin restaurants, and this is kind of focused a bit more on like service and wine and whiskey. So this video is a little bit different. I'm not teaching in this one per se. I'm really just sharing a bit more of like my experience in the industry. So let's go right into it. So I have a few different certifications that I've done. I started really in like a wine focus. I had been working in restaurants for a little while, got really interested in wine when I started learning about it just from the work I was doing. And I heard about certifications through the Court of Master Sommeliers. Had never heard of them before. I didn't even know what a sommelier was when I had my first serving job. And I pretty much just like picked up a book about wine, started reading about it, and couldn't stop. And so I did the first level, which is the introductory, I believe it's called the introductory course and exam through the Court of Master Sommeliers. And when I did that, it was in person only. It was a 2-day course and exam, and I'm pretty sure they offer it online now. Pretty much it's like your first big deep dive into wine. And the Court of Master Sommeliers has a service focus that some other wine certifications do not have. I believe WSET doesn't really have that service focus so much. But they do have some similarities. Their levels are a little bit different. Like I believe they have 3 levels, and then WSET diploma, which is kind of like a prerequisite almost to doing the Master of Wine program. And then I believe with the Master of Wine program, they also, if you go the CMS route, they want you to do advanced preferably. I don't think you necessarily have to have it, but that's their preference. So Court of Master Sommeliers has introductory, certified, advanced, master somm. If you do the WSET route and go into the Master of Wine program, I believe you can test into level 3. So there's 1, 2, 3, diploma, master wine program. CMS, introductory, certified, advanced, master sommelier exam. So a little bit different. Master of Wine, Institute of Master of Wine is separate from WSET. They're not the same thing. And then everyone really considers, without any debate, Master Sommelier and Master of Wine like pretty dang equal in the amount of knowledge they have and respect they have from other people in the industry. And so back to kind of how the courses work, the one I did to start, 2-day course. You do get the material ahead of time so you can study, and then an exam, and it's a fully written exam. And then the next one you do, and you can't test into these with the Court of Masters. You have to start at the first one. So you do that. Then you can take the certified exam, which has the 3 parts: the tasting, blind tasting, theory, written exam, and then service. And kind of similar thing with advanced, and the MS exam. But the testing is obviously more rigorous. And then with those, they also do tasting is verbal. With certified, at least when I did it, it was written. And then I believe advanced, the theory is still written. And then with the Master Sommelier exam, it's all verbal. And they're a little bit different. With certified, you have to pass all 3 at once to be able to get your certificate. With advanced, it used to be that you had to pass all 3 at once. I think they may have since changed that. And then MS exam, 3 separate parts, and you have to pass all 3 within like a certain time frame, but you don't have to do it all at once, because that's like feels near impossible for a lot of people to do. And I'm a little bit less familiar with the Institute of Masters of Wine. They do, like, you do a whole research side of it, which actually really interests me because I do personally really enjoy research. I just don't think that's quite the direction I'm gonna go, but you know what? You never know. We'll see. I personally, I learned that I really enjoy teaching and research myself. So I've actually gone a bit more of an academic route, and I have done a certificate from Stanford University online in scientific writing. So I learned about like writing in the sciences and editing and a bit more in like grant research proposals and writing for that. And it's really interesting to me. I might eventually turn that way. Right now, I'm still very heavily focused on restaurant work myself and then teaching here. And then I've also done certifications in whiskey. So I've done both the 2 exams, both online through the Council of Whiskey Masters. And those I've done the Certified Scotch Professional and then Certified Whiskey Specialist exam. And really fun. I love talking about whiskey. Scotch is one of my favorite things in the entire world. And so the next one for me with that would be the Master of Scotch program and exam. It is very expensive, and I don't feel like spending that kind of money on a test right now. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do that one, but it would be really fun to do. And especially being a woman working in wine already is that there's quite a few, but it still feels a lot less common. But especially with whiskey. So it's one of my favorite stories of a guest experience. I had 2 guests come in, and this was a very small restaurant tasting menu. And I was talking to them, and at this place I was the beverage director and general manager, still pretty heavily involved in service as well. And so these 2 guys come in, we're talking about beverage, they're really interested in our wine pairing, and they ask me, they're like, well, how much wine do you get in that? And usually when people ask that, they're concerned that it's going to be too much to drink, and these guys were actually like, no, that's not enough to drink. I want to have more. What can we do? So after talking with them for, figured it out after like a minute or 2 of talking, that we were going to do kind of an impromptu, I didn't call it that, but impromptu whiskey pairing for them. And I thrive off of kind of chaos in that way, where it's like, hey, we have to get this going really fast and be totally on time because we need to get through this service so that we can be set and ready for the next one, for the next seating. But also, I need to get all of these pairings done for everybody else who's doing wine and these guys, and go in between courses and get this whiskey ready and decide really quickly what we're gonna pair with everything to make it the best experience possible. And it was so much fun. Like, it was hilarious. This little tiny restaurant that's probably no bigger than my apartment is, we have like this display of whiskey back behind this open kitchen. And I go back there and I'm like opening bottles, and I know quite a bit about all the whiskeys we have because, I'm in charge of the program. I have to know all this. But still, I'm like, there's little nuanced differences between some of these that are pretty similar. So I'm like smelling all these bottles and putting together these pairings and then coming up with exactly how I'm going to talk to them about how it pairs well with the food and my recommendations for how to drink this with the food and what's going to make it the best experience. And oh my gosh, that was like one of the most fun things I've ever done. Ever. Like, I live for that shit. And they loved it. They had the best time of their lives. And that's why I love doing that kind of stuff. And I don't know, that's one of my favorites. I've had plenty of times where people would regularly go out of their way to come find me before they're leaving after they finish their meal and just thank me for everything, tell me how much they loved it, that they're like, this is the best service we've ever had, comments like that. And I love that. It makes me so happy that I can do that and provide that kind of service for people. And mind you, this is people who regularly dine in like multi-Michelin star restaurants, so it felt that much better. But one of my other favorites, we had this younger couple come in. They were doing a wine pairing with their meal, and they're probably like in their early mid-30s. And one of the servers comes back and finds me. This is, mind you, a minute or 2 after I was already at that table. And he's like, hey, can you go back to that table? They have a question about wine. I'm like, I was literally just there. Anyway, I go back, have the wine. And this woman, she asked me, she's like, I'm so sorry, I wasn't paying attention to what you were saying, but this wine, she's like, I love it. It's such an interesting wine. Can you tell me more about it? And so I start going through everything that I like to point out about the wine and talking to them about it, kind of going through my spiel. And she's like looking at me like this while I'm talking about it. And she stops at one point and she's like, it's like listening to a podcast. And I'm standing there and I'm still going through like all of my points about the wine and talking about it and thinking, that is not a compliment I've ever had before. Thank you. I just kept going. And then I don't think I'll ever forget that moment. But when I think back on it, I've had so many comments like that from people. Like, I remember these two guests who came out to another place where I was working and they did a pairing. And when they left, they told me, they're like, you are my favorite sommelier I've ever met. They're like, no. I mean, they're like, the wine pairing was great. They're like, but I love the way you talk about it. And to me, I'm like, I'm not doing anything special. I'm doing things that I learned from other people in the industry. Like, my first experience in fine dining was I worked at a 2 Michelin star restaurant, and I learned some really great things from people there and really insanely talented coworkers that I had. And I just kind of watched them work and just picked up kind of what they were doing. And then, I had to tweak things here and there with things that are changing in the industry and depending on what kind of restaurant I'm working in and just my personality. But yeah, I get a lot of comments from people like that. They're just like, I love the way you talk about it. They're like, it felt so much more personal, like easy to relate to. And I'm like, people don't do that. Thinking like, people don't do that because I've worked with so many other people who do the same thing. But it feels like there really was something so special about some of the people that I learned from, and I'm very grateful for that. So I learned from some people that just really freaking killed it at what they did. And whenever I think back on that, I'm like, that's one of the best teams I've ever been a part of. Anyway, yeah, I love that stuff. And now, yeah, I'm really interested in research and super nerdy about environmental stuff. And I love doing research on like different socioeconomic things that happened and why that changed the wine world in different areas and these different times and what was going on that like shaped it into being what it is today. Because there's some, to be honest, screwed up things that have happened in many places that kind of changed wine forever in some places. And I'm definitely going to do more videos on that. And I seriously, guys, like, comment on this and tell me what you want to learn, because there's so many research projects I want to do. But if you tell me, be like, hey, I heard this one thing, can you look into this for me? Because I'm so interested in learning more about it. Please tell me, because I need some more ideas. And yeah, I want to share more stories. I have a lot of like terrible stories of things that happen in restaurants that I will happily share with you guys. And I think I want to get some old coworkers in here and talk to them about the same thing and have them share, like bartender friends and chef friends share some things too. But yeah, that's just a little bit more about me. And I know it's a little different. There wasn't quite so much teaching in this one, but I'm definitely going to do more of that soon. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye.